We are the watchers on the couch. We are the voices that guide the realms of men. We are the Night's Watch. Welcome back to everyone who joined us from the Blab days. We are now on YouTube, and welcome all the newcomers. I'm your host, Kal the Kingslayer, and alongside me, as always, I have Lord Tom and Lady Kimber of Half's Odd Shaped Channel.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Man, it's been a long time since we've been doing this, huh? You know, normally we had that yearly break, but we had a longer break because we had to wait for winter to come, literally, for the production and all that. So, but if you don't know what we do, we recap Game of Thrones episodes a few days after it airs on HBO. But today we have a special episode. We're recapping the entire season 6 to get you guys prepped and primed for season 7 premiere this Sunday. So, as a whole, what did you guys feel? Like, how did you guys like season 6?
I mean, it definitely had its ups and downs. Some of the storylines definitely fell mute.
Yeah, I hated Arya's storyline. But also, I thought the last 2 episodes were some of the best episodes in Game of Thrones history. It had a lot of really memorable moments. I had a lot of feelings change about a lot of characters by the end of last season. So I liked it overall. I just hated Arya's whole storyline.
Yeah, as Eric in the chat says, it ended very strong.
Yeah, it did.
Yes. Yeah, I know we had some issues about the Arya storyline, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. But before we get started, I just want to give thanks to Janine for designing our new title card that you saw earlier with myself as Jon Snow, Tom as Davos, and Kimber as Melisandre. That's awesome. It's available as a shirt, which you can find on my Twitter or the Night's Watch Twitter as the saved pin, so check that out. It's also on our Facebooks. But all this information will be at the end of the show. I have a social media card ready to go with all our Twitters and stuff. And we'll also be talking about the Knight's Box, also how to win that, a chance to win that at the end of the show as well. I also want to give a special thanks to my cousin, Shreepal, who composed the theme song for this show. So that was pretty cool. And I'll have his information as well on that social media card. So I guess we can get right into it on season 6 premiere. We left off season 5 with the last scene being, I think, Jon Snow getting stabbed by the Night's Watch. So we open with the Red Woman. And we always talk about, I know we brought this up on other shows too, maybe, I think on American Odds, that like the title of every episode usually can have more than one meaning. I think here it's kind of clear who it was, Melisandre, even though she wasn't really that focused on the episode. But we start out with Jon Snow, right? So where we ended is where we start. We see his dead body still lying in the snow. We hear ghost wailing, and his body is found by Davos as well as some of his loyal members of the Night's Watch, and they take him into a room and barricade it. Sir Alsor comes in and threatens to kill them all if they don't give up his body. Would you guys, we had a lot of theories about what was going to happen with Jon Snow, how he was going to come back. What did you guys think at this point when you were watching it?
I just wanted him, we had waited a whole season. At that point, I just wanted it to happen.
Yeah, but I was glad, they didn't dilly-dally too long with it. We all knew he was coming back.
But yeah, so I mean, we don't know how long do you think it takes to become a White Walker, or White, I should say. How long do you think it's, because why wouldn't he have changed? You think it wasn't you could see, I guess it was the same night that it happened, right? When they found him.
I don't think as much time passed as it seemed like with the pacing of the show. I think it was not as long as people think it was with that, because we know that the timelines can get weird with Game of Thrones. And I think in this case, it was a time period that wasn't that long, that was being presented as a longer time period than it was, just because they were trying to stretch it out into the second episode. I
think it did happen over a course of a day too, though, because remember, after they lock him in the room, he is still there, and then they give him a few hours, right? And say, give him up, and he's like, I want some meat, I want to weigh out. Remember, that was some things that as a stall tactic, that's what Davos asked for. So I think that some time had passed. So we just don't know how long it takes, right, to become.
Yeah, we don't know. It hasn't really been confirmed.
We also know there's some weird stuff with the Stark bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
They do, instead of burning their dead, they bury them, and they have the whole Iron Sword thing. So maybe Starks are a little more immune to changing. It could be something as simple as that, or as complicated as that.
Do you think we'll get an answer, or for Starks at least? I mean,
no, it depends. It depends how deep we go with Bran's back to the past adventures, because there's a whole theory that he's everybody. So maybe, I don't know. It's up in the air. I would rather them get to the whole Targaryen thing, and I know we're jumping the gun by the whole season right now, but I'd rather have them get to that than explain why he didn't turn.
So we stay in the north for the next part. We go to House Bolton, who still at this point has Winterfell, and Ramsay's kind of mourning the death of Miranda, but then eventually says just throw her to the dogs, right? Because the dogs have to eat, right? We're gonna see how that comes back to him. And but like I think Roose is telling him that Ramsay's marriage to Sansa was in direct opposition to the Lannister, so there's gonna be consequences for that. And Roose further provokes him by saying that Sansa's gone, because he knows that Sansa ran away. He won't be able to have an heir, so that now Walda's child is now in line, as opposed to Ramsay, as opposed to being Ramsay, unless he can get Sansa back. So at this point, I know Kimber's a huge fan of at least you and Rian, right? But you kind of liked Ramsay's character a little bit, right? At this point.
Oh, I love Ramsay. I think he was the best villain that the show has had so far, by a lot. And again, like jumping ahead, I'm bummed that he's not around anymore. But I thought this season was prime Ramsay. Like, he really got to come into his own and be the lead bad guy on the show. And of course, some of the things he did around the circumstances with Walda and her baby and Roose and stuff are top examples of Ramsay's ruthlessness and his willingness to do anything in order to secure the position that he's trying to get in his family and in the north.
And Tom, you kind of, I guess you were more side with Theon, right, at this point, as opposed to the Ramsay, or did you like?
I was excited that.
Sorry, Mavis is being awful.
I was more excited that Ramsay or Theon was doing something and actually not just being a spectator to all this madness. Like, he's participating.
Well, speaking of Theon, we had him running on the run with Sansa, trying to get away from the castle because we're still in the north, and we have them kind of fording a river and then trying to find shelter under a tree. And despite that fact, the Ramsay's men found her, and Theon finds Theon, and he tries to divert there and saying, "Oh, she's gone. She died in the river," or whatever it was. But the hounds find her, and they're about to die or be taken back, and here comes Brienne and Podrick. They come save the day, and that was a really cool scene to see that, and have Brienne try the second time, and this time successfully, pledging her sword to Sansa, and Sansa accepting, and that whole scene between them, and Podrick jumping in, saying, correcting the oath, or the pledge to take, and Theon nodding to Sansa this is what you should do. That was I think it was a great scene for this episode. Might have been the best scene of the this episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought that was really beautiful. I definitely shed a little tear, got a little emotional.
Yeah, I remember. Is that not the scene where I jumped out of my chair when I saw Brienne coming in? I was that excited.
Yeah, you were pretty pumped. Mavis, come on.
Speaking of a White Walker, we got.
It's just like Blab, the cats of Blab. Now we have the cats of YouTube.
There we go. Mavis, everybody. What were we talking about?
You're saying about what you felt, Brienne. You really liked that scene. You screamed out loud.
Oh yeah, I was just pumped because this is especially with the last season where she sat there waiting for a candle the entire season. It was nice to finally just see her, do what she's been talking about. This was the episode where people finally stepped up because of a situation allowed it, or because they finally got the bravery to do so.
And seeing Theon kill somebody, coming back full circle. I like seeing that too. I'm a fan of Theon's. Him becoming Theon again, I guess, in a way. That was pretty cool. I don't know. I like Theon.
I never liked Theon, but it was good to see him do a thing, I guess.
He's been brought down so low that all that's left is a redemption arc.
Yeah,
so
true.
I actually saw a Bill in the chat. I think it was Bill. Yeah, he had hashtag fuck Ollie, which reminds me of the season 6 finale party we had, and one of the teams was, I think Vicky and Rob's team was fuck Ollie. So that's kind of funny.
A lot of people had this list with all the little things next to it. What do you think is next to Ollie's name?
Fuck Ollie.
Hashtag
fuck Ollie.
Team fuck. Hashtag. Cat's driving me crazy.
So now we go to King's Landing, and we have the Dornish ship coming back into the harbor, and we see how happy Cersei is. That I don't know if she's more happy to get Myrcella back or getting Jaime back, but she sees Jaime on the bow of the ship, and he has like this stern look on his face, and she knew right away, like, this is it. Like, Myrcella is dead too. So I mean, this goes back to the prophecy, like, all your children will be shrouded in gold, but death will be their, or shrouds of whatever, gold will be their shrouds as well. So I don't know, like, did you guys start feeling sympathy? I know because Kimber is a fan of Cersei. I think, didn't you vote for her for your favorite female? Was that
Yes, I love Cersei. I think that the deeper we've gotten into the show, I've had a greater appreciation for Cersei, and particularly after reading the books. I just think she has a lot going on about her that's interesting, and it's cool to see her. These prophecies that have been made by Maggie the Frog are defining everything that happens in Cersei's life. She walks right into these problems because she believes that it's going to happen to her. And to see her just full-blown start losing all her kids, which is like the one thing that's tethered her to sanity throughout this entire thing, is she's just gone off the rails in the most interesting and wonderful way. Like, I love this like Mad Queen turn with her. I just think that like she's one of the characters that's changed the most, but in a way that makes her far more interesting of a character than she was at the beginning of the show. Like, the more they reveal about Cersei, the more I want to know about the character.
And I know how you mentioned that like the Mad Queen. We thought that costume at the end of the season, I know we're jumping ahead, was beautiful. But even this scene when she's coming down in a dress, it was nice. And seeing Myrcella's dress towards the end of that was nice. And even Jaime in his regular like attire, like, not because you usually see him in armor, which was awesome this season as well. But just all the costume work we always talk about is amazing. This show, I don't know if it won the Emmy for costumes or not, but I think it should. Just seeing all that. But her end costume is the best. Mad Queen, yeah.
Sure, Cersei definitely had a costume upgrade compared to the season beforehand.
Oh, well, that's true. Well, relatively speaking.
You were there when I saw that dress for the first time, and I think I was like, I did her murder outfits.
Yeah, yeah, you called it, and that was awesome. Like, that was an awesome dress. And actually, the new pop for this season for Cersei is that outfit, so that's gonna be cool.
That's awesome. I'll have to get that one.
Real quickly, Marjorie, she's still in prison and has nothing to confess. Then we go to everyone's favorite place, Dorne, and everyone loves House. I know Kimber's favorite house is Martell, but this part of the story no one really liked, where Dorne gets a message about Myrcella's murder and then is quickly assassinated by Ilaria, and she wants to get revenge for Oberyn's murder, I guess you can call it. And I don't know if it's considered murder, if it's trial by combat, but you know what I mean, his death. And then Trystane is killed on the ship by the Sand Snakes. But here now we go back to I guess it's Marine, right? Oh, yeah, it's been so long. I think it's Marine. Yeah, Marine. That's where they are. Where Tyrion is, and like I know one of Tom's favorite characters is Tyrion, right? So now we see him come from going, being a Lannister to like being exiled in a way, shitting in a box and throwing his own shit out of a hole of the box, and now becoming one of Dany's like trusted advisors in a way, starting to become, right? Because this is where he's roaming the streets of Daenerys, and he's trying to learn about the city and the affairs of the city and what Dany has to deal with. But then they see like Sons of the Harpy, like they overhear talk about Sons of the Harpy as well as the ship's burning. So how do you feel about Tyrion's journey up till now, Tom? Because I know you're a fan of his.
I mean, he's definitely grown into the beard well. He's definitely come into his own. Like, before, I felt like he was a scapegoat who still had to clean up everyone else's problems. And that weighed on him. And, like, yes, he was, like, definitely at first in the beginning seasons, he was, like, a deviant. Almost like how he said, like, to Jon, you're a bastard, wear it. They're going to call you an imp. Be an imp. You know what I mean? So he's definitely matured out of that. But he's still as smart and sharper now. I think he's got his alcoholism a little bit more under control, even though he still likes to drink. Well, I mean, Dany was very aware of the problem and was like, if you're gonna counsel me, you're not gonna drink all the time. I think all this is good for him. I think it's going to be hard when he shows back up to Castle Rock, especially. Not only is he fighting against Jamie, we assume, but Jamie's teamed up with Bronn, and I don't want to see Bronn and Tyrion fight. It's like seeing your parents fight. You don't want to see that.
Well, Bronn goes where the money is, so we'll see what he's more loyal to, the purse or his pride, like his friend, right? So
that's a good point, because if Tyrion has the money, then he'll just be like, Bronn, come on. Lannister always, and he's like, don't say it.
Well, yeah.
I see them lighting up the chat about Dorne, and I do want to say, like, Dorne is one of my favorite places in the books. Oberyn Martell is obviously my favorite character, and it was just really disappointing to see, like, I liked Ilaria a lot in the prior seasons, and, like, she started sucking so much, like, particularly in season 6, she got, like, unbearable, and the rest of the Sands and it sucks because, like, in the books, Arianne Martell is so interesting, and Prince Duran is, like, a way more, like, he's just better at everything. He's kind of, like, such a failure on the show. And Arya Hota is, like, disappointing on the show. Like, they really failed.
He went out. Like, I don't understand how, like, he got taken out so easily. Like, he's supposed to be this badass dude, and it's like one little, like, knife to the shoulder, and he's done.
We didn't get
well, we see him with the first time when he had the weapon, it was, like, so well done and all that, and then, you know. Yeah. But, like, for the people who hate on Dorne, I think Dorne really reflects our community, like, very well, because we're all welcoming. We don't, like, dislike anybody, you know, like, our Potter family that we have, you know, that a lot of them are in the chat right now. The Dorne represents us, basically. So if you read the books, you'd understand it. But even, like, Oberyn says that in his speech to, I think it was to Tywin or somebody, or I forgot who it was back in season 5 it was, right? I guess he has a speech about Dorne and all that. So, you know, go listen to that. And I know they kind of dropped the ball with the story there, but Dorne's a cool place.
I mean, the one thing about Dorne is I hate sand. It's coarse and it's everywhere.
Yeah, I do hate sand. So yes, the next story is kind of like one of the sadder stories. Is Jorah? He's looking for his love, Daenerys. He's with Dario, and they find some clue. They happen to find the one ring in the giant field, I guess, in the middle of the field, right? Because all the Dothraki rode around in a circle. But he kind of pulls up his sleeve and he sees, you know, the grayscale is spreading. So that's kind of sad, you know, because Jorah's a cool character. Speaking of Daenerys, she's a prisoner of the Khalasar led by Khal Morrow. But she does reveal, it's kind of the way that, you know, we see her walking along and just, like, listening to them talk, but she doesn't reveal that she speaks Dothraki. Speaking of that, have you guys learned to speak Dothraki yet? Because you guys won the prize and chose.
Yeah, it looks good on our shelf, though.
It does.
So yeah, I learned how to speak some of it, but not that much. But yeah, so she's right now. She goes to the temple of the Dosh Kalin because it's where all the widows of Khals go. To our favorite story of season 6, we go to Arya in Braavos. So Arya is still blind, sitting on a fart bladder. I'm just kidding. She's a beggar in the streets of Braavos. Waif approaches and they begin to fight, and then that's all we see. The final thing we see in episode 1 is we go back to the wall. We see Melisandre, the Red Woman. She undoes her necklace, and we see the transformation into an old hag. And then she goes into bed, and the episode pretty much ends. How did you guys feel when you first saw that scene with Melisandre?
I mean, I wasn't surprised. It was a pretty good meme.
It's the day that all the boners died. Is what.
Eric Monroe has a bunch of thumbs downs for the waif.
Yeah, I think for the waif on our notes.
It was his least favorite character, yeah.
We just wrote fart bladder noises was our response to the waif.
Any final thoughts on episode 1? Or did I miss anything from your little booklet?
No.
No, you're good.
All right. So episode 2, we'll try to go faster. We got Bran. Episode 2 is called Home. We have Bran, and he goes into the Dreamlight State. And this is what we like to see, because this is where we learn about the past. And we see him in Winterfell, and we see Ned as a kid. We see his Uncle Benjen and Lyanna riding as a horse. And that's the first time we ever see Lyanna, besides her as a statue in the crypts of Winterfell. So that's really cool to see. We see Hodor as a kid, and we discover his real name to be Willis, and that he speaks. And that's going to come later, what that matters. And then Three-Eyed Raven pulls him out and says, you know, you got to learn more before you can stay. And staying in a dream too long could be deadly, or have negative effects. Mira is questioning why she's still there, but the children tell her, you're needed here, that Bran needs you. Sir Davos running out of time. Sir Alistair says we're going to break down the door. And again, I'll just jump ahead, I guess. They're about to break down the door. And as they do that, we also hear a big banging outside the gates of Winterfell. And that's when, I guess, earlier in the last episode, why can't I think of his name? Ed. Dolores Ed. Yeah, Dolores Ed, right? He went to go get the wildlings. They come back with a giant one. I think that's 1-1, right? Yep. They come back with 1-1. He picks up some guy and slams him against the wall, which is a cool scene. And the rest of the Night Watch quickly surrenders. And Tormund says they better get the pyre ready to burn Jon's body. That was like, I remember we were talking about throughout this season, we had a lot of those, like you said, like when Brienne came, you were like, you jumped up and shouted because that was an awesome scene. I felt like when this 1-1 broke the door, that was like a scene for me where I jumped up and I shouted. I don't know, did you guys enjoy that scene when 1-1 and all the wildlings came? I mean, you knew it was probably going to happen, but.
Well, it's nice to see that, like, Jon, despite all of his faults, because like he is learning to be a leader and all like this, has rallied allies, and like it kind of gives more more believability to him rallying allies later, is because he was able to, Mance Rayder was the one person to unite the wildlings. Now Tormund with along Jon have united what's left of these wildlings, and they actually come back to repay the debt. And I don't know, I found it very moving that they actually came back to protect a man who's already dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we go to the King's Landing, and we see a guy making fun of Cersei's walk of shame, and then he goes to take a piss, and then all of a sudden the zombie mountain is behind him, smashes against the wall. That was a cool scene. Then we also see a scene with the Kingsguard sequestering Marcella's body in the Red Keep. And Tommen speaks to Jaime about Marcella and Tristan, and he kind of pledges his oath to his mother, saying like, I'm sorry I let you down. I'm going to try to be the strong king you want me to be. Jaime also goes and talks to the High Sparrow and stands tall against him, and he's like, are you going to kill me? He's like, well, the gods are responsible for my death. The other Lannister back in Meereen talks about the burning of the ship. We're talking about Tyrion here, and he hears that Slaver's Bay has been regained by the Masters, and he feels that one of the solutions is to free the dragons, because they got to grow somehow. So he goes into the thing, and this, I think Kimber loved this scene where he goes into the Dragon's Keep and gives a really a poignant story, right? And talks to the dragons. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Tyrion is my favorite living character on the show. This scene was beautiful. I loved his speech that he gave about wishing that he had a dragon since he was a kid, and even a little one. And he cried when he found out that they were extinct, and it was just like a really special insight into Tyrion, and it made so much sense with his character. Also, like, for book readers, a lot of the characters have dragon dreams, or some of the characters have dragon dreams, Tyrion included, and this is giving you like a little hint to maybe some possible foreshadowing for Tyrion, related to the dragons. And it was just touching to watch his response, and he is such an amazing actor, and he really blew it out of the water with these obviously amazingly CGI'd dragons, but CGI dragons no less. He brought a lot of life to that scene, and like that's another one that got me a little choked up, just because like I believed him so much in that scene.
And the dragons, like you say, are CGI, but you could tell the acting in the way that it reacted to him, and everything was very well done. Something not very well done is the Arya storyline that we go back to in Bravos. Arya is still a beggar. Then Jaqen H'ghar comes. She's not longer a beggar. Follow me. Basically, we're not going to talk about that. House Bolton. Ramsay believes Sansa's going to head to the wall, so let's go storm Castle Black and take him over. And Roose goes, you can't do that. And by the way, Walda had a boy, so you're shit out of luck. So he hugs him, and then Ramsay stabs Roose, killing him. Sansa is having one last talk with Theon. Theon says, I want to go back to Pike. That was a really touching scene. He goes, I would have taken you to the wall. I would have died if I had to. And that, I guess I probably should put that for my scene that I almost cried to, because that was a great scene. Because the emotion that he effused in that scene was amazing. I love that scene. But he said, I would have died. I would have protected you all the way to the wall. Speaking of House Greyjoy, Yara's reporting to the losses in battle to her father, and she wants to withdraw, but Balon refuses. He's walking out across the thing, and then we introduce Euron as a new character. Euron kills Balon, and then now we're gonna have a King's Moot to decide the next king of the Iron Islands or queen. Melisandre also is approached by Davos to perform magic. She does this little, gives him a haircut, does some little chanting, washes his body, leaves because nothing happens. A few minutes later, we see Ghoster, and Jon Snow is back. So finally, he's back, and that's pretty much how episode 2 ends. Episode 3, we go to Oathbreaker, and that starts out with Jon. So we didn't know who the Oathbreaker would be here because it could have been a few people, but we started out with Jon. He remembers everything. We had a humor scene within him and Tormund as he walks out. They can't believe Jon Snow's back. He then gives everyone not really even a trial. They're about to be executed. Al Sawyer, Janos Lind, and Ali. He says, "Do you think in this saying, Alistair stays strong to everything I did for the Watch," and he doesn't break character or anything like that. Ali doesn't even say anything. They're all hanged. And then Jon says, "My watch is ended." He's not, because the oath says until your death. So technically he died, right? So now, maybe he can gain a crown. Who knows? Because now he's not part of the Night's Watch anymore. But I remember we asked where he'll go from there. Sam's on a boat. He's heading to Old Town with Gilly. He has terrible seasickness. Here we go to what my favorite scene was of this episode. And I think I said my favorite scene in Game of Thrones ever. If you haven't been following around, Kimber, you want to talk about what we've been doing every day?
What we've been
The 30-day challenge?
Oh, the challenge.
Oh yeah, we've done. I think we're on day 11 right now, but this page I think is at ASOIF or however the fuck the letters go, and is life.
Yeah.
He started this 30-day Game of Thrones challenge, and he's asking like a different question every day, such as like favorite house, favorite motto, favorite female character, and such. So we've been doing that recently.
So yeah, so the day that I'm talking about, the thing was, what's your favorite scene? And my favorite scene was the fight between Ned and his men against, and it's my favorite battle too. I think I use it for 2 things, between Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, and Ned's men. And that was just seeing him fight with 2 swords alone, taking on 4 guys, was so cool. And the thing where he goes like, "I wish you good fortune in the wars to come," meaning like he probably knew he was going to lose for some reason. I don't know why. A lot of people are theorizing that he would, no matter what, he was given orders not to kill Ned, probably. So like, even whatever happened because of Rhaegar's love for Lyanna, he probably said, "Don't kill Ned if Ned ever gets here." That's why I don't know why he would say, "I wish you good fortunes in the wars to come." So that's kind of crazy. Like, but it was, and then like you hear a scream, so Ned's running up, and then Bran goes, "Father," or something, and then Ned turns around acknowledging Bran being there. But that was that was a scene that people have been waiting 20 years for, kind of thing. And what's coming later. Any thoughts on that scene, Tom? How you felt about that?
A thought on, and I just had this thought, on Sir Arthur Dayne in Sword of the Morning, saying that there is someone who can kind of see the future in that house, is there not?
In that house?
Or
was you mean
sister,
right? If you think
Ashara Dayne, right?
Can she see it?
Because there's this whole thing where some people think she's Quaithe.
I thought that was like the Blood Raven sister. Quaithe, people thought was Blood Raven sister. Darkstar, the other family of the Targaryens, the Blackfires.
Yeah, you're right. We are going to conspiracy theory, but if I'm not wrong, there is somebody in the Dayne family who did like fortune telling, and so maybe he did hear about the outcome of the fight ahead of time. Who knows? Yeah,
I was gonna say excellent casting on young Ned Stark. He was great.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene was so awesome, and it was badass, like you said, to see this dude dual wielding these 2 swords and his Targaryen armor and stuff. It was badass. I'm a big fan.
And just to see how the story actually played out.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, fighting with 2 swords I think is a lot harder than fighting with 2 lightsabers, because I know like Anakin did that in one scene. So I mean, I have both. I have lightsabers and swords, and my swords are a lot heavier. So I don't know how, I'm sure they balance it well, because they always say the balance is important in the sword. That's one of the things John first asked. How is the balance of it? But that was cool to see, Sir Arthur Dayne. We go back, and Daenerys is still in Vaes Dothrak. She's in the same place where you saw her eat the heart back in season 1. And she's stripped of all her like queenly garments and put into like kind of like widow's clothing, I guess you want to call it. And she's going to be judged by the Khalasar. That's where we're left off with her. Varys and Tyrion are walking in the streets of Marine, and we have this great scene about a baby and the prostitute and saying, here's the money to feed your baby, but he's saying, like, eat. And the woman thought she wants to eat the baby and all that. Yeah, and then
Forgot about that.
We find out that the masters of the Yunkai, Astapor, and Valentis are funding the Sons of Harpy, and then that's where Varys heard from Little Birds. Master Qyburn is trying to turn those birds to his side now. Cersei reveals that she wants to have trial by combat. We see that causes issues because later on, Tom gets rid of trial by combat. She and Jaime burst into the small council with Sir Gregor, or the Mountain, whatever you want to call him, Zombie Mountain, but they leave. And then this is where we first see Tommen meet with the High Sparrow, and we see the turn of, the whispering in the ear of Tommen to turn him. Arya, who cares? She gets her sight back. And it ends with Lord. Actually, episode ended with Jon walking out. But the last thing we're talking about is Lord Umber coming and giving Shaggy Dog's head and saying that we have Bran and Osha.
Rickon.
Next episode, what?
Rickon, not Bran.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, Rickon. Thank you. And Osha, yeah. So we go to the episode 4, Book of the Stranger. Jon is still about to leave, and this is when Sansa arrives. And that was a great scene, seeing them come back together. And Brienne confronts Davos a little bit about what happened with Renly and Melisandre being there, about how Renly died to a shadowed creature. And Sansa's urging Jon to take back Winterfell because that's their home. And yeah.
Isn't this also the part where Davos sees Melisandre and asks about Shireen?
No, I think that's
No?
later.
What did you say again?
Because this would be the first time Davos and maybe not.
This isn't when he confronts her about Shireen, no.
No, that's the season finale.
Man, I get confused about it. Well, no.
Okay.
No, this is when he just asks about Shireen.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So now we go to another area. We go for the first time. We go to the Vale, and we see Peter Baelish arrive to see his nephew Robin. Robin's like kind of still has like weak and feeble. He can't shoot a bow and arrow. And then Peter Baelish, the Littlefinger, convinces Robin to go help Sansa against the Boltons. Tyrion invites the masters from Astapor, Yunkai, and what else did I say before? Whatever it was, for diplomacy, and they work out a deal. And Grey Worm is adamant that the slavers can't be trusted. Dario and Ser Jorah arrive at Viceroth Rock. They start their little infiltration mission. Davos says you can't carry any weapons in, but we know that Jorah says you can't bring any weapons in. Dario hides the thing. They get into a little trouble. Luckily, Dario had his knife. They meet Daenerys, but she says, I have a plan. Daenerys is put into the house to get judged. She locks the door. They lock the door from the outside. She knocks over all the what do you call those things? The fire pits or fire lanterns, whatever they are.
They're like oil urns or something.
Yeah, sets it ablaze, and a scene very reminiscent of season 1 when she walks out of the funeral pyre, right? So how did you feel about the parallel there, Kimber, between that scene and the scene in season 1?
It was cool and it was exciting, and Emilia Clarke said that she would not get naked on the show again, and then she did, so huzzah there. And yeah, it was cool. Like, I guess that tactic just really works with the Dothraki.
Yeah. Marjorie's still in prison, but now she's kind of like starting her plan, like we thought was starting her plan to show that she's kind of siding with the High Sparrow just so she can get out and make plot. And she got to meet with Loras and told him to stay strong. Cersei walks in on Grandmaster Pycelle advising Tommen. She doesn't like that. She's saying, you should be listening to me. He said you're gonna be strong for me. Tommen admits to Cersei that Marjorie's gonna be punished, and then Cersei and Jaime tell Olenna Tyrell and Kevin Lannister about it, and they're like, all right, we're all gonna team up against the High Sparrow now because that's a new plan. Theon returns to the Iron Islands and meets with Yara and says, I don't want the throne, but I'll defend you and your claim on it. And Ramsay meets with Osha. She tries to seduce him, but he kills her. And that's about it for that episode. Go to episode 5, which is probably one of the best episodes of it's like, really jumped up for me here with the door. Very emotional episode. Sansa's making a new dress. She receives a raven to meet with Littlefinger. They talk about it, discuss it. Did you know what was going on? And she's like, I could have you cut down by Brienne right here. She goes back and tells Jon, we really need to get Winterfell back. And then so they start a new recruitment mission, and Dolores left in charge as the new Lord Commander. Arya, who cares? I don't know unless you guys want to talk about Arya.
No,
Oh, this is with the Lady Crane garbage, and she goes to the play. Brandon Stark has a vision where he sees the White Walker, how they were created. So we saw how the Night King was created. That was pretty cool. Then we also see him walking in the field of whites, right? And then he sees the Night King. The Night King, he turns around to see the whites turned around, and then he looks, and then Night King's right in front of him, and he grabs him. So, and then that's when he's touched, and then he wakes up and screams, and the three-eyed raven's like, "Oh, you have to leave now because he's marked you." I don't want to talk about the end of this, what's happening here, because that's kind of the last scene of the thing, and you know how emotional it gets. So we'll get to that in a second. The King mood happens. Yara gives a great speech, and then all of a sudden, whoever talks last apparently has to win, because then Euron came, said a speech. He wins. They run away with all the fastest ships. Daenerys is with Jorah and Dario. She reveals that he has grayscale, and he goes, "If you still want to be my, I'm still your Khaleesi, you're gonna go and find a cure. That's my last order to you." So he leaves, and they split their ways. Tyrion sees that the fragile piece is tentatively working, but they need a new mouthpiece. So they meet Kinvara, the new High Red Priestess, and says, spread the word about her. And then we see that weird situation between Varys and Kinvara about her knowing about what he's been through. Yeah. Going back to the north, and we see the Night King gets there with the White Walkers. They were able to break through the magic spell. They come in. Summer dies, right? Leaf dies, and they get to the end of the hall. Coincidentally, the first thing said to Hodor in the whole show, in episode 2, I think, of season 1 was, "You have to help Bran get down the hall," and this is what they help him. He helps him get through the hall. And then you hear Mira say, "Hold the door," because they open the door and says, "Hold the door," and she's running away. And you hear fade out saying, hold the door," and then that's where you see it go back and forth in the vision, because Bran's also in the vision because he's still in the trance. The three-eyed raven's killed by the Night King in the vision, and you see Willis turning into Hodor there, saying like, "Hold the door, hold the door, hold the door," hold the door, and Hodor comes out, and we see the arms come out and grab Hodor, and basically we think he's dead. And Mira and Bran get away. So thoughts on that scene, Tom? I know when that happened, I remember we texted each other after that.
Billy's pointing out that it's like symbolic that when summer dies, like on the show, winter is beginning.
Oh yeah, it's a good call, Billy.
Cool.
Yeah, that is a good call. I wanted to point out too, if they spent half of the Arya time on the King's Moot, because
I fucking hated the King's Moot.
Believe it or not, I like Game of Thrones for its political stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really excited for this because I knew it was going to be like this vote and a lot of back and forth and debate.
It was literally 5 minutes from the beginning of it to what I guess essentially is his coronation, where they're doing the drowned god stuff. It was too quick, and they just brushed over it.
We got a full hour and a half of Arya's weak ass Daredevil
getting beat up the whole time. It was weak sauce. But Hodor, did you have feelings?
Oh yeah, no, I was a wreck.
Yeah, it was really sad, and I don't think anyone really saw it coming. And beautifully thought out and written by George R.R. Martin. He has a way of doing these things where I don't think it was even on anyone's radar, something like that, and it was so emotional.
Didn't Osha or somebody in season 1 too call him a glorified doorstopper or something like that?
I don't remember that.
There was more than just the one get down the hall hint. I remember because I've seen some other videos, but I just
when I do my rewatch again, I'll probably check that out.
It wasn't even a fan theory though.
It wasn't.
Actually, someone said to George R.R. Martin, "Is Hodor short for hold the door?" They asked him that. And then George R. R. Martin goes, "You don't know how right you are," or something like that to him.
Yeah, I've heard that too, but it wasn't a widespread fan theory,
not
Clegane Bowl.
Yeah, and the whole Jon Snow thing, that. Those are huge widespread theories, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so that was very well kept on wraps. That was great. We go to episode 6 now. Blood of My Blood. Bran is being dragged by Mira. Whites are chasing him. We see him flash through visions because he's still in the trance. they're saved by Cold Hands, or so we think, right? Who reveals himself later to be Benjamin Stark. And he says he needs to get to the wall and let everyone know, because send a raven that the Night's King is coming, and you got to get prepared. Samwell Tarly arrives at home, the most probably beautiful castle that we see, or the lands that we see in all of Westeros. Beautiful Hornhill with Gilly and Sam. They have the world's most awkward dinner party. His father Randall hates Sam, hates on Gilly, but says I'll keep him there. You learn about a new Valyrian steel sword called Heartsbane, and Sam's like, I can't stay here anymore, and you're coming with me, because he leaves. But then he comes back a few seconds later to the door, says, you're coming with me, grabs Heartsbane and leaves. Tommen meets more with the High Sparrow, talking about Marjorie's Walk of Atonement, and they try to work out a deal, but we don't know about the deal yet. Arya watching watching more of the things of Lady Crane. Okay, that's all we got to say. We see Jaime and Mace Tyrell come to King's Landing and they give the Sept. They say we're going to take back Marjorie and Tommen, but the High Sparrow had a better plan. He formed the union between the Crown and the Faith. So now we have the Crown militant, right? And they had the logo with the crown with I don't know what it, but it was the new logo, the 7-point star, right? There you go. Thank you. House Frey, Walder's furious that Riverrun's been taken back by the Blackfish, and they show that their ace card is that they have Edmure Tully still, and the last scene ends with Daenerys, on the horse, and she gets off because she hears rumbling. You see her walk off in the distance. She comes back riding Drogon and gets all the Dothraki, or her,
Khalasar.
Blood Riders and Khalasar. Yeah, they all say, "Are you going to be out? You are all my Blood Riders." So Dothraki, that's how you say it. They are all their Blood Riders, and that's how the season ends. It's not season, sorry, episode.
I was like, wow, I don't remember.
Episode 7, The Broken Man. This is with Clegane. We really like this episode. Where it was the first cold opening that we had in a while. So before the Game of Thrones started, we see all this like a sept being built, and we see all these people carrying these giant logs, and you see one person alone, because we hadn't seen the Hound or Sandor Clegane in a while since he fought Brienne and got knocked off, and Arya left him for dead. What are your guys' thoughts about when the thing turned around and it was Sandor Clegane the Hound?
I mean, we already knew about the Gravedigger
Fan theory.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was a little disappointed that it didn't do more, because I did read that portion, because that's Brienne's point of view, right?
I don't remember.
She's going through and she sees the guy digging the holes. But I don't know. I thought it was really cool. Kind of a waste of
Ian McShane.
But we got to see him in American God, so that was kind of a waste of Ian McShane.
I was excited initially, but this season did disappoint me in a couple ways. I called it Hype Slayer, if you recall, because one, they fairly quickly stomped on my Stoneheart dreams. I got excited when I saw the Brotherhood without banners appearing again and stuff.
Yep.
I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna
Bring
Stoneheart, and Clegane Bowl. I was excited about that this season, and they kind of stomped on that with I guess it might be later on, but he rules no more trial by combat and stuff. So I had mixed feelings, but all in all, I am glad to see the Hound back. Mostly.
That's one reunion where I'm really looking forward to, is Arya seeing the Hound again.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have the Clegane Bowl eventually. I think we're gonna have it. I think it's gonna happen. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. He might go north. He might go north with Jon for the group of warriors that fight the Whites. So we might not. That might be the end of him, but we'll see.
It might be next season too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, we saw Ian McShane play Brother Ray and all the Septon stuff, and they unfortunately were killed by the Brotherhood with Banners. And they were hanged. That's the last we see of them. And you see him pick up the axe and walk away. That's kind of the episode ends, but we're talking about the other stuff in the episode with Marjorie pretending to be pious, reading from scripture, talking to High Sparrow, saying, I want to meet with Olenna. And then, we had this scene with Olenna, and then she touched her hands and then walks away, and Olenna leaves out and sees the the Tyrell rose, not Tyrion, the Tyrell rose in her hand. So she gets a smile, but she warns her, you have to leave. You have to leave the, King's Landing. And I remember at this point when we were talking about it, we were so excited because we're like, wow, she has a plan. This something cool's going to happen. And like you said, Hype Slayer, that didn't happen. But I remember talking to you about this, and we were so excited for what was going to come because we love Elena as well. So
yeah, I was glad that she at least got the hell out of there, because if one Tyrell had to survive, I'm glad it was her. She's awesome.
Yeah, so Cersei meets with her, and they have a huge falling out kind of thing. Jamie arrives with his army, and Bronn a river run, parlays to the Blackfish, but says, we're not going to give up the castle. Theon and Yara at the brothel deciding where they're going to go next, and they're like, maybe they'll go to Marine and make a pact with Daenerys. Arya, who cares what she does? She did. I think it's where she gets stabbed. Yeah, she gets stabbed by the old lady, which ends up being the waif, falls into the water, and then that's pretty much how that episode ended. But we have Jon Snow traveling to the Gift. He recruits the wildlings, and he goes to Bear Island. Has an awesome scene with Lyanna Mormont, which I posted a few days ago, where Lyanna Mormont threw a grenade and killed 30 people. Then it exploded, so that was awesome. And then he goes to well, it was actually Davos that got her to change side, like to change her mind. Then he goes to House Glover, but they refuse to join. And that's about it. Then you see Sansa decide to ride a Raven and ask for help, but we don't know where it went at that point. But we made theories. That's pretty much it for episode 7. Episode 8 was no one. And I remember Tom's comment after this was, who will remember this episode? No one. Basically, it was about Arya, saving Lady Crane, but then Lady Crane finds her later and heals her, but then the waif kills her. They have this whole, chase scene, and then she kills him. She kills the waif in the dark with Needle, and says, "I'm leaving because I am Arya Stark of Winterfell." And Jaqen H'ghar acquiesces and says, "You can go." Sandor Clegane. This is a cool scene in the thing where he kills, a bunch of the Brotherhood without banners. He meets up with Beric Dondarrion, and he offers to join him. Tyrion is pleased with how Meereen has been after his thing with the slavers, but then also they start getting bombarded by the ships, so they obviously didn't keep their word. But Daenerys returns. Cersei is talking to Qyburn. Is like, are the rumors true of what's going on? He goes, yes, and much more. This is where we lose trial by combat, but this is where Cersei starts her plan. Brienne arrives at Riverrun, has a great scene with Jaime. Jaime then talks to Edmure. Jaime lets Brienne keep Oathkeeper, and then Edmure enters the castle and gives it up to the Lannisters as well as the Freys. And the Blackfish is set to die in the scene. But that's about it. For that. Uh-oh. My notes are gone. That's weird. All right. And Brienne and Podrick leave. The next episode happens to be the best episode, which, in my opinion, was the Battle of the Bastards. Right? So that started out with, we're in Marine, and Daenerys and the dragons basically defeat the Master's fleet, leave some ships because they need them, and they kill all the Masters except for one, saying, remember who I am. If you ever cross me again, you'll die. Then we go to the Battle of the Bastards, where Ramsay meets Jon on the field. He's completely outnumbered and outmatched by, Ramsay's military insight. The battle starts. We had the Rickon thing where Rickon doesn't run a straight line. He gets killed by the arrow. Jon charges in. He's by himself, but luckily Davos had given the order for everyone to charge. You have a huge army crash. Then Ramsay kind of pulls off like a phalanx maneuver where they surround him. They put their shields up, and the spears come through and start killing people. Eventually, Sansa comes with the Knights of the Eyrie. They break it up with their cavalry. They chase Ramsay back into Winterfell. Wynwyn breaks down the door as his last great act of heroism. Takes an arrow to the eye, dies, unfortunately. Then Jon beats the hell out of Ramsay, and he sees Sansa, and he sees Ramsay's face in a bloody mess, but Ramsay kind of still has a smile on his face, and Jon is all bloody. And then we have the moment between Sansa and Ramsay, and she leads the hounds to eat Ramsay and walks with a smile. So how'd you feel about that? I know we really love this episode as a whole. How'd you feel?
I loved that the next episode was foreshadowed here, where yes, they go through with 1-1, and Ramsay kills him, and he's like, "Oh, well, you proposed a one-on-one fight, right? Now that everyone else is dead,
yeah.
Let me fight you one-on-one." And he's, close distance bow. So Jon picks up a shield, and what's on that shield? the Mormont sigil.
Mhm.
And as we'll get into in the next, talking about the next episode, Mormonts have always been a shield for John.
Yep.
So I think that's really cool writing. It's just a little bit of symbology thrown in there. But yeah, this episode, I always call it Saving Private Ryan with horses. It's was done so beautifully. It set the bar in my mind, because now when I see other like horse scenes and stuff like that, I complain about it in Wonder Woman. It's just amazing what they were able to pull off. And
So-
Kimber's flying in. She has thoughts on this episode.
Okay.
And here she is.
Ramsey has gone too soon. It's
Yes.
bullshit.
Well, we don't know he's
And,
dead. Happened off scene.
That's true. I want her to not have
come
a
on
face.
now,
That would
like-
be so cool.
He comes
I don't
out
know.
faceless. He comes out like flayed a little bit, like no face. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, but
Bolt on.
Yeah.
his death wasn't the strongest for me. Like I get like having the dogs eat him and stuff, but it did look a little fake. I thought that was like
Yeah.
the weakest part of the episode.
And he's also on a new show, right? So
Yeah,
probably
and
not gonna see him.
the Stark women, man, they have a sadistic streak. Like
Yeah.
she was smiling. We all know how Arya gets. But yeah, I miss Ramsey. I'm gonna miss Ramsey.
You
next
think she's
season.
pregnant with his baby?
I've always thought that, but who knows? She doesn't look pregnant in any of the
No.
promotional stuff, but I thought that could have been an interesting
I
way
think
to go.
what you're saying is exactly what Ramsey was saying. I'm a part of you now, and that is my sadistic nature.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, gone too soon. They keep trying to hype up Euron and making Euron a thing next season, and he's saying he's going to make Ramsey look like a baby and this and that. And I think that he has quite a task ahead of him if he thinks he's going to do that, because Ramsey was the best villain on a show that's known for its excellent villains, in my opinion.
We also had a lot of time with Ramsey.
Yeah.
So then, the guys brings us to the season finale, the Winds of Winter. The best probably scene that we remember, we were live streaming this, and the music, man, the Light of the Seven during this
Light of the Seven
scene,
is the
the
best thing.
costumes, just the like everything set up, the ambiance with the trial, going on at the Sept of Loras, and eventually supposed to be Cersei. You don't see Tommen leave because the mountain's keeping him there. You really don't see Cersei leave, and Marjorie sees that and goes, well, "Hey, why is Cersei not here?" Because she doesn't expect to face any consequences. Loras gets branded. Lancel runs out chasing to go get Cersei, but then he sees a bird, I guess you can call it, and he chases the bird into the sewers, right, of King's Landing, and he comes up to a wildfire cache, right, and sees 3 candles. That's a great scene as he's crawling because he got stabbed, and he gets right there, and he sees eyes, and then it lights green. And all the Sept comes down. You see the High Sparrow die. You see everyone die inside there, including Marjorie, which we don't know. We didn't see her die, so we don't know if she's dead. But yeah, obviously, yeah. Sir Loras, Mace Tyrell, Kevin Lannister. A lot of people died in that scene. The bell. I remember when the bell flew and we saw that one guy get hit with the bell. We're like, oh! We screamed out loud, and then I was like, holy shit! There's somebody behind me, and I find that thing is there. Then we go to the north, and we had what you're saying, Tom. If you want to get into this scene about Lyanna Stark and in the north, at the North Moot, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Real quick before we move on from that first scene, I do want to say that's my favorite first 20 minutes of an episode of all time. It's super beautiful. That music is amazing. I saw them lighting up the chat earlier, saying that they listen to it on the reg. We do as well. I think it's the most beautiful piece of music and used that way in a show ever. But yeah, we were talking about jumping on your feet moments and being excited. That's got to be the best one of the season, right? And luckily we were all together to experience that. So shout out.
Seeing that in concert, the live concert experience, seeing that being performed, and when the wildfire goes off, like all these green fireworks go off and it lights up the whole arena. It's pretty cool, man. Like,
cool.
That's awesome.
And we were also saying it was like a good 7 minutes without any dialogue as well. It was just like the music being put on, they're being adorned and all that. Like, it was beautiful. So Tom, you talk about the North Moot with the people in the north.
Yeah, well, I mean, for a 10-year-old, she calls out a lot of old dudes in the thing, and she's like, "House Glova, you refused the call," and like she's putting Manderley and all of them in their place, and they're like, "Yeah, you're right." And I mean, we had Baelish talking in Sansa's ear earlier about like, oh, who are they gonna back? You know, the daughter or Ned's eldest son, who's a bastard. And I think Sansa's surprised at this, but at the same time, she's like kind of like rubbing it in Peter's face, because he's there in the shadows as always.
So basically, Jon's declared the White Wolf and the King in the North.
Yes.
We also have the scene in Dorne, back in Dorne, where we have Elena meeting with the Sand Snakes, but then we see Varys come out and say, we're going to take this back with fire and blood. And then we all screamed at that part because we thought that was cool. We also had the scene with, what else am I missing? I guess Bran, right? That's the only other thing that happened. Oh no, wait, Arya. Oh god, Arya finally her story ended because she was at the wedding. I mean, not the wedding, the ceremony after they took back River Run, and Walder Frey's there, and then you see someone like come up to him saying, "Your sons are here. Your sons are here," and they're actually baking the pie. Takes off the mask. It's Arya Stark. She kills Walder Frey, and that pretty much ends her story. You know, mercifully in that scene, at least in that season. Then we go to Brent.
Ends our Stoneheart dreams too, because it kind of seems like they've merged Stoneheart's plot with Arya's, unfortunately.
We go to then Bran being dropped off by Benjen right near the wall. I guess it's by the Godswood where the Night's Watch, people who take the oath from the old gods, they take it at that Weirwood. And Bran touches it and he sees the vision of finally 20 years later what happens in the Tower of Joy. We see the birth of Lyanna Stark's son. And telling not to make our promise, never tell anybody who it is or whatever, really, and just say it's yours. And that's how we got Jon Snow, because it fades from the baby's face to Jon Snow, and we're all assuming he's a Targaryen, Rhaegar Targaryen's son, but I guess we'll find out, right? Because then that forms into Jon's face, and then Jon's there with Melisandre, and Davos comes in, and this is you want to talk about this scene because you were mentioning it earlier, where Davos comes and confronts Melisandre.
Well, yeah, this is where he definitely finds out what happens to Shireen, because she was just like, oh, and she made it sound like she fell at the hands of war, you know what I mean? That's why Shireen didn't make it. But now, like, he finds the little wooden stag that, and it's funny, I was editing the OSP Game of Thrones episode we just did, because we were talking about, like, the death that affected us the most. There's, like, 20 minutes of people talking about Shireen. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. So think of that times 20 for Davos, you know what I mean? Like, he's gonna be affected more than anybody. And he confronts Melisandre, and Jon gives her the boot.
Yep, exiles her. Then we see a little scene between Sansa and Jon saying winter's finally come because they have the White Raven. Sansa says you should take mom and dad's room because, you know, you're the king now. But he goes, I'm not a Stark, you know, you are. But she still, like, you know, finally see a nice scene between them, and winter has finally come. And then with the Raven flying, we also had to mention that Sam made it to the Citadel, and we had a little funny scene with the Maester going like this with that. And they have a lot of great memes about that too. The unimpressed Maester. Then Jon, he goes into the library, and it's beautiful with all the lights and the oracle reads with the, you know, what we see how the Game of Thrones opens with all the you know, sigils and all that. We see that. And I guess the scene kind of, I don't know if I'm missing anything else, but the final scene, it's Cersei is now the queen regent of the queen of the Seven Kingdoms, and Jaime comes back because he sees the fire and all that, and he comes back and sees, and you just see his face, you know, stern looking face, like straight, like she's the queen now. But there's another queen coming, because the season ends with, we see the ships sailing across the narrow sea towards Westeros from the east with Daenerys and Missandei and Varys and, you know, Olenna Tyrell, and because you see Tyrell ships in there, you see Dornish ships in there, and then of course you see the 3 dragons flying over, and that's basically how the season ends. And that was just an amazing scene. I remember Eric saying that too was his best scene. I think that was his best scene. Any last thoughts about that before we go into like the callers and the 2 segments I have?
Just applause for getting through the whole season in an hour. And I also want to just point out how cool Daenerys's like head ships in the fleet were with the gold horses. Mm-hmm. Like it looked really cool.
Oh,
like
yeah, the mastheads and all that, right? Yeah, man. Because they were all remade so fast, huh? Right? Like with dragons.
I mean, I hope it's more evident in this season with such long episodes that I like the time. I'm really tempted to like just write down where like the actual timings of things.
Yeah, because I did find that frustrating. Like people talk about Varys in particular, like teleporting from one place to another, but all that is that
Yeah, storytelling time.
They skip time, you know, so they cut out the boring parts. Like
Yeah.
they're not going to show you him sailing from one place to another.
Right.
Like, so time has passed, and they have time to make such things, or at least modify the boats to look more like her fleet. You know, like take whatever sigils are on there and switch it to something that matches her.
Even if we use Arya as a marker, you know, if the whole events of them taking the Bay of Dragons,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, and then by the time Arya's back in Westeros killing Walder Frey, now she has these ships. So like you can use that as it took Arya's full travel back across the sea for her to have this stuff. So you just
and I was gonna say, Cal, whenever you're switching and getting a collar, and I do have that poll that you took.
Okay.
If you wanted.
Well, I want to introduce the first segment because I'm just gonna do it between us for this episode, so we'll get through it quick. So I'm gonna have Kimber go first, actually. So the first segment I'm introducing is called "I Will Be Your Champion." So tell me who your champion of the season was, or basically like what story arc. So it could be a character or a story. But here I go with Oberyn Martell saying, "I will be your champion." So who is your champion, or your person, or story arc for the season?
I'm going first.
Yes.
Cersei. It's definitely Cersei for me this season. I thought she really came into her own as like a villain and a person that you need to watch out for. Like she had me cheering because she's so like delightfully evil at this point. I think that Jaime is having a lot of weird mixed feelings because he's obviously been through this before with the king that he had to kill because he was murdering people with wildfire. So you just get a really interesting dynamic between her and the characters around her and how it affects Tommen and how many people she's taken out. I thought it was her season.
And the look on Jaime's face when he finally gets back to King's Landing and it's just on fire.
Yeah,
this
man.
is exactly what he was trying to like.
But yeah, it's Cersei for me.
Tom, who's your champion of the season or story arc, which I picked either?
It's going to be Davos for me. I subscribe to the idea that he's possibly, because I don't think Azor Ahai and the Prince Who's Promised is the same person necessarily. So I subscribe to he's Azor Ahai and Jon's the Prince Who's Promised. And I kind of think that he brought Jon back to life. I don't think it was Melisandre. I think it was Davos's
his faith.
Especially because he doesn't have any faith. He only has faith in people.
Yeah,
which I feel like it gets repaid because like I love the scene where he talks with his son about, you know, I've seen people pray to gods and nothing happened and blah blah blah. And for everything he's seen, I think he just believes in people. And for him to be let down by people by the end of the series, especially Melisandre, I think says a lot. But I mean, I'm sure you have one.
Yeah, you guys gave such great answers for being put on the spot. I have to applaud you guys. That was awesome answers. And you guys it's like you guys had. I promise you guys, this was not staged. This was just asking them on the spot, and that was great answers. For me, I would have to say Jon's the easy answer. You know, I love Jon. I'm a huge Jon fan. You know, he started the season dead, and now he's the King of the North. So you know, I feel like it's a huge promotion in my eyes. And you know, the whole Azor Ahai thing, we'll see where that goes. But you know, it's. I have to go with Jon for the thing champion, for my champion for the season. But we're gonna do this for every episode. We're gonna talk about who do you think that our champion of that episode is. But you know, you can't always have the good. You always have to go with the bad. So for the bad, I'm gonna have the shame bell. So who is your? I'm gonna go back to Kimber first. Who is your shame? Which character would you ring the shame bell on, or story arc? I kind of have a feeling where you're gonna go with this. So here's where my shame bell's getting ready. So who is your character or story arc that you'll ring the shame bell for?
I ring the shame bell for Arya, obviously. It's the weakest.
So wait, let me get that. Shame. Okay, go ahead.
Well, yeah, it was just obviously the weakest story. Like, if you go back and watch the Night's Watch episodes from last season, we had way better theories on how they could have cleaned up that plot line, and it just really fell flat for me. Like, we skipped over it, basically, in our recap because it's just her getting beat up and then her moving on with her storyline and leaving the faceless men and stuff behind when she worked so hard to get there. It fell flat and it was pointless. So Arya. I
still think she learned things, but we didn't need all of that time for us to see that she learned things.
Also sand snakes. Shame.
All right, so I'm gonna go to Tom now. Who'd you ring the shame bell for, story or character arc?
It's Arya. I agree. We can double shame her.
Okay, wait, so let me get that in. Hold on a second. Shame.
I love this.
So, and then for me as well, we're gonna have to go triple for the Arya storyline. So we'll get another 3 in there. Shame, shame, shame. So for all of what we said, we're going with 3 shame bell rings for Arya for this season. And you guys already said it best. There's nothing more I could add to that. So I guess, Kimber, if you want to go into the poll, then we can get our callers in too. If we have a line going. I'm not sure if you had a line going either.
Yeah, we do only have a few minutes, so it's going to be really quick with the callers because Tom has to go to work at 10:30. Right. So Cal asked on a poll 3 days ago, which team do you think will suffer the first major death in Season 7 of Game of Thrones? And the choices he had were Jon's team with the North and the Vale at his side, Cersei, and assuming that she's going to team up with Euron, Dany and her super team, or the Night King with his whites. And we had Cersei and Euron winning the poll at 38%, followed by Dany and her super team with 31%. Jon and the North and the Vale are coming in at 20, and not too many people were with the Night King. They think maybe he'll come in later. They only got 10% of the vote.
I'm surprised they even got any vote, which is kind of crazy. So I guess, Tom, you're gonna call them?
I'm going to call them right now.
Okay, so while we do that, I'll present the 2 questions that we're going to ask, and Kimber, you can start answering it. The first question I sent to you guys was, what do you think, who do you think, I guess it goes right, piggybacks right off the poll. More specifically, who do you think the first major character to die in Season 7 will be?
It's really hard because we don't have a lot of information. It could be anybody, really. I think some of the people that are going to die this season that are main contenders are people like Tormund, unfortunately. Littlefinger's going, but I don't think that's going to be at the beginning of the season. Dany's team is huge, and we're seeing that huge fire on the water battle in the trailers for Yara and Theon. One of them could easily go.
I think Theon might go.
Yeah, hopefully not Yara because she's awesome and I love her.
I think Theon might save Yara. That's my theory.
But yeah, so I'm not sure, but there are options. Do you have any?
Tom, real quick.
What's the question? Who's going to
die? Who do you think first major character dies?
I want Theon to, he said he would die to get Sansa to the wall, so I can see him dying to protect Yara. I think he's going to finally step up and be the quote-unquote man.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be Theon in the battle. Probably, I don't know where the actual battle is going to happen, but it's definitely going to be in the water against Euron's fleet. I think it's going to happen. And the second question for you, I guess we'll get to the second question after. Well, Eric, welcome. Eric is from Mine is the Fury, a huge Game of Thrones fan, and probably one of the only few Stannis fans in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
you can say Stannis is about to die because we don't know if he's. Who do you think is the first character to die in Season 7 is going to be? Since we didn't see Stannis' death.
I actually think it's going to be Tormund Giantsbane.
Tormund Giantsbane?
I know that's. I don't want him to die. I love his character, but I think he's going to die in battle. I think it's going to be earlier rather than sooner. I know everybody wants to see him with Brienne. I think that could happen for maybe 2 seconds, and then he's going to go.
And then I guess I'll bring up my second question. I'll start with Eric first. Eric, how do you see Season 7 ending? The last shot
with the wall coming down. The wall's coming down in the last shot.
That's how I see it too. With the White Walkers and the Night King getting there and the walk. That's how I see it. What about you guys, Tom and Kimber?
I think one of the dragons might bite it in the last episode.
I'm seeing the final shot. The final shot, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not even going to venture to predict because there's a whole season of show and anything could happen. So I don't even know what the first shot is going to be.
Stannis is going to show up out of nowhere and save everyone.
Yes, love it.
That
just made my day.
Any thoughts about Season 6 before and your hopes for Season 7, Eric? While you're with us?
I thought it was a pretty good season. I agree with a lot of what you guys said. Arya's storyline in the House of Black and White was god-awful. I'm so happy it's over. And I noticed in the trailers they haven't shown a lot of her, which means they kind of want to keep whatever she's doing under wraps, which I find pretty interesting. I would love to see her reunite with the Hound, see them have a scene because I love their scenes together. But I really hope, it does. I just hope it doesn't move too fast. That's my only little worry. It's 7 episodes. Just don't go too fast. I get it's got to be faster paced. Don't skip over anything crucial that we need to see.
Bonus question for you, Eric. Quick, yes or no answer. Will we see Lady Stoneheart?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Oh, that's even more definitive. Okay. Do we have anyone else we want to call in? Do we got Billy?
Billy disappeared. And
okay.
Janine understands that we're pressed for time. Janine, I didn't ask.
Janine usually doesn't call in, but maybe if she wants to.
Well, while we're waiting, Eric, if you want to talk about you just did a season 6 recap as well, right? So if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I did a little brief 7-minute recap of what happened during the season. You know, what I liked, what I hope for season 7. I'm excited because we've waited a very, very long time. I mean, the last episode of season 6 was like June 26th, so it's been over a year since we had a new episode. So all this build up, I worry like because season 6, the end of season 6 was so good, and you don't want the first half of season 7 to fall flat because the end of season 6 was so good. But I think it's going to deliver personally. I think it's going to be amazing. I think we're going to have a lot of good things to talk about.
And real quick to interject here, if you're curious about Mine is the Fury, Eric Monroe's Game of Thrones talk cast, whatever we want to call those things, pod
Recap.
Recap, whatever. The link to the latest one is down in the description below, along with a few other friends of ours. Nolan just did our friend Nolan Dean just did a video essay on using death in Game of Thrones, and there's also the top 5 list with Kimber and Morgan Robison from the Purple Dawn down there, as long as another Game of Thrones Let's Play from a friend of mine. If you're curious to see how like the different ones play out, we're still trying to finish ours. But
Tom did my thumbnail. I just wanted to shout that out. He did an amazing job, and he's going to be doing 7 more for me during the season, which I look forward to.
Yeah, I do thumbnails now, and if you're curious about that, you can look at Tom's thumbnails on Twitter.
Yep.
One thing I just wanted to say real quickly, Cal. It's interesting you brought up the Sword of Morning saying, "I wish you good fortune in the wars to come." I don't know if you saw this in the chat. That's Mance said that to Stannis before he burned. Now I don't remember anything in the books about that line, but I wonder if there is something to that line, that it's like a common saying in the world of Game of Thrones, at least on the show.
But we also know what happened with Mance too, if you read the books, right? So
yeah, different. It was totally different.
Yeah, it's a completely different story for Mance in the books. Any other thing else you want to give your Twitter and where else we can find you besides your?
Yeah, you can find my show Minus the Fury on my YouTube. You can find that through my Twitter, which is at nmkoch200. That's Koch. And you can let me know everything you think. And I ordered a Night's Watch shirt, which should be coming tomorrow or the next day, according to FedEx. So I will send a screen grab of that when it arrives.
Yep, great segue. Thank you for that, because we were talking about this earlier, and we were saying that we're going to have a new segment called Take the Black. So I hope Janine's listening. So whoever buys the shirt and you send us a picture, we're going to put you on the thing, and we're going to have you, people who have taken the black. And maybe for next season, I don't know if Janine can do this or not, but we could put the names of people who've taken the black on the back of the shirt for the next season and the date they took the black. So we'll record the date that you sent us the picture and everything, and we'll have you as taking the black. So I think that's a cool idea. We were brainstorming this before we got started. So Take the Black. Look for that next week, starting next week, the first segment for that. So thank you for supporting.
Very cool. That is awesome. That is an awesome thing. I like that. I love that idea.
So yeah, thank you for joining us tonight too. I don't know if anybody else is calling in. Is anybody else calling in, Tom?
No, I'm probably wrapping it up.
I don't see anyone in the chat.
All right, so I guess now's a good time to talk about the giveaway, since we're at the end of the episode. We have the Knights box, the first ever Knights box coming out, right? And so here are the things that are going to be in it. We have the Jon Snow pop vinyl, as well as the Ghost pop vinyl. Then we have the Brienne of Tarth Funko Legacy figure, donated by Tom and Kimber. I hope there's not that much of a glare. Sorry.
No, it's just Eric's face.
And then we have the shirt that Janine designed. So like I said, please buy Janine's shirt. You do have a chance to win the Night's Watch shirt in the raffle, the Night's Box giveaway. But if you can't get it, please buy the shirt, support her design. She's an amazing artist. We have her information coming up in a little bit. But like I said, we're going to add that to Take the Black as well. So anything last thoughts? Because I'm going to bring up the social media card now. So anything you guys want to say before?
Yeah, real quick, you were talking about Janine. Obviously, I am wearing my cool BFF shirt that she also designed. Shout out to those guys. Ashley and Joe do a show where they do recaps of stuff that they've talked about on fan fiction that they've never seen. they're not big Game of Thrones people, but maybe someday they'll do a Game of Thrones episode. So tweet Ashley and Joe if you want them to do
Yeah,
it.
blow up their Twitter to get them to watch Game of Thrones. How about that?
Yeah, you can tweet at Joe at Drake Masters, and you can tweet at Ashley at _Mrs. Davis. Let them know you want them to watch Game of Thrones.
And then maybe we'll have a huge crossover between Night's Watch and BFF, right? So
Hashtag GOT BFF.
yes.
Got BFF.
Let's get it trending. So talking about hashtags in Twitter, well, let's get to the social media card. We have, if you want to send any submissions, I know I'm going to be putting some fan art and stuff up, but if you have any questions that you want to be answered on the Game of Thrones Night's Watch show, you can email us at email to nightswatchtube@gmail.com. And then you can also hit us up on Twitter, and the Night's Watch Twitter is at Night's Watch Tube. My personal Twitter is at Viren Jadeja. Tom's personal Twitter is at Odd Shape Panel, and Kimber's personal Twitter is at KimberBatch_OSP. And I'm pretty sure I got everyone in their favorite colors. I was trying to do that. Yeah. Special thank you to Janine for doing the title card and the logo on the shirts. So her Twitter is at Janine DeBean. And an extra special thank you to my cousin Shripal, who did the theme, who composed the theme himself. At Shreeps Music. He's a very talented musician. Check out his music at shreeps.com. Shreepsmusic.com. But I'll send Tom that info, and he'll put it on oddshapechannel.com. But he can hit him up on Twitter at Shreeps Music. So I think I got everyone. I hope I got everyone that was involved today. Eric got his out too. So is there any last words about season 6? And so next week's episode 2 of Night's Watch. We'll be talking about episode 1 of season 7, which is known as Dragonstone. And Dragonstone, as we know, was the ancestral home of the Targaryens, which has, coincidentally, a cave underneath it, kind of, with a lot of dragon glass. So will that come in handy? I don't know. Possibly. So, yeah, so we're going to have Daenerys reaching, hopefully, Dragonstone. So that's going to be kind of cool. And we'll be talking Dragonstone next week, Tuesday night. Tom, Kimber, anything else you guys want?
I'm going to get emotional.
He's gonna get emotional.
It will always be Stannis' home to me.
Yeah, huh?
Like, she's breaking and entering. Will somebody stop her?
And Stannis comes out. You thought I was dead.
Ridiculous.
He's
You
Stoneheart.
can record my reaction if that actually happened. Oh my god.
Yeah,
I too am going to get emotional, but it's mostly because Daenerys Targaryen is going to be touching land in Westeros for the first time, and
well, it's not really the
That is
first time that we've seen, right? Because technically she was still at the sacking of King's Landing and all that, and then they were rushed off to Pentos. Remember?
She was a baby though. I don't even think she was walking yet.
yeah, and it's hard to say where she actually was because there's some things
Yeah,
in
the
the
whole
book
red
that
door
are,
thing.
They think she might have been being
In
lied
Bravo.
to, so.
Probably no.
But,
I don't know, because I remember they're saying like Illyria and all them like rushed them off from King's Landing to Pentos or something like that. That's what they were
she
saying.
was like pregnant with Dany though. I don't think Dany was born in Westeros. But I
don't know. Yeah, no, it's still gonna be a cool scene regardless. So, but Eric, you should record yourself for the first few minutes of that. And if that does happen, we could show your reaction on this. Or you put on mine.
It would be epic. I will tell you that it would be epic.
Any last thoughts besides that? For everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us. We'll be doing this every Tuesday at 9 p.m. What's up?
Yep.
Next Watch is next week, 9 p.m. Also, right here on Odd Shape Channel. Also next week on Odd Shape Channel. Monday, we're going to do another Q&A.
Well, we got something tomorrow. Don't forget, we got something tomorrow.
Oh, my God. Tomorrow's Twin Peeps.
Yes.
The return.
Watch Twin Peaks.
The return of the return.
The return of the return. Let's keep our fingers crossed for Cooper. Don't say anything to me if you know. I will like the spike. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel, and then next week we have 3 shows, Monday through Wednesday. Our Q&A/recent news episode. We'll talk about Shia LaBeouf trying to kill a guy.
Joe's making me laugh in the chat. He's like, "Let it go."
Yeah, I saw him.
I can't.
Look, this is for all the
Never
lost,
Joe.
This is for all the lost talk. You guys put us through.
Not Joe though.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, hold on. We have to, that's not a punishment
we
equatable
gotta
to the
wrap
crime.
this up.
Yeah. So, and then Tuesday we'll be doing this again next week, 9 p.m. And then another episode of Twin Peeps on the Wednesday at 8 p.m. But meet us tomorrow for the first one, or not the first one, the whatever, 6th one.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep talking. OddShapeChannel.com.
Yeah, I'm gonna put up the social media card and play out our theme song at the end, and you can just cut us off at the end if you want to do it that way. But thank you for everyone having us, joining us today, and thank you for Tom and Kimber as always for hosting with me, and Eric for calling in. And hopefully we'll get your picture next week, right? So that'll be cool and feature you on the show. I do have one picture set up, and we'll hopefully get, if you have any fan art or anything, or email or questions, email here. That's coming up on the screen, and we will see you guys next week, hopefully, right, on the Night's Watch, episode 7. See y'all later. Until then, our watch has ended.
Have a good night.